Welcome, welcome, everyone. I am Green Kid, and I am here to commentate the Stay-at-Home Cup #1 playoff match Game 1 between Serral and Solar. And in the bottom left-hand corner, we have Serral rocking the red drones on Zerg. In the top right-hand corner, we have TSG Solar rocking the blue, purple drones. And let's see exactly what happens. Now to start off, we see the very typical, very normal Overlord Scout. I feel like every Zerg player in the history of good Zerg players immediately sends out both Overlords, just makes them, sends them right out to scout, and they get the expansion at the same exact time. Not too much different things to do in the first minute and a half, 2 minutes of Zerg play here. I don't expect a lot of differences in their play, but when we do get to the build order, after the first 2 minutes, I think that's where we will see differences. As I have not watched either of these players super a lot recently, I do know that Zerg v Zerg can be fought aggressively in a few early scraps, but if it does get to late game, the Zerg with better micro just kind of wins, rather than the Zerg with better tech. Because the Zerg with better micro can be doing Hydras on a base, he can be doing Mutas flying around the map, Hydras running around, Zerglings messing up mineral lines, he can be getting Broodlords, committing all sorts of stuff around the map. And another big thing in Zerg v Zerg is map control, even more so in any other matchup, because they do have creep versus creep interactions all over the map. And this can actually be super interesting to see as the Zerg players go around clearing each other's creep. And right here we do see a queen coming out of both hatcheries. Queen's going to be erupting out. Same exact build so far from both players. We're getting a quick research right here. Same exact thing. Literally identical production tabs so far. And identical unit tabs almost. Except we do see the Lings come out. We do see 2 Lings come out slightly faster from Serral. What will he do with these 2 Zerglings? We see them over here, scrapping with the hatchery, not allowing it to regenerate health as it does build. See the difference 2 Zerglings can make. And these Zerglings see the opponent's 2 Zerglings and decide that it is not worth it. It is absolutely not worth it. The Overlords scouting around each other, trying to maintain some map control before the real creep spread happens. And again, like I was saying, pitch perfect, similar builds. The metabolic boost coming out literally at the same time, less than a second apart from both of these players. You can tell that they are both following the same exact meta build, as their income should be nearly identical. Serral does have 4 less workers with 4 more army supply. So we're seeing the first differences come out in the build orders from these 2 players. As we do see the Queen and Zerglings defending from this attack, the hatchery not taking too much damage, as it was, most of that damage was already happened earlier from the 2 Zerglings. Now we just see a lot of just stuff coming out. As we've got 37 workers from Serral, he did make 3 more than his opponent while being attacked in the bottom right-hand side. An interesting thing to note, the Zergling number is about the same right here. You can see in the unit tab. We've got about 20 over here and about 10, but despite having double the amount of Zerglings by now, going in would not net much gain, because Zerglings just can't really do that much damage against other Zerg with Queens up in each base and Zerglings up in each base. But we do see this man making Banelings. Incredibly effective to do if you have more Zerglings than your opponent, because you can go in, you can get rid of 3, 4, 5 Zerglings immediately, and then you just have more stuff beats less stuff every single time if they're the same unit with the same tech and no one does something horrible like targets a queen instead of some Zerglings. So making Banelings right here is quite the play, because you do see he has about 5 more Zerglings. Both of them making Banelings, both of them making Zerglings. We see 2 different routes here. The Overlords are still scouting each other out across the map, up here, 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 and here. We're trying to see the first creep trimmers coming out. I still don't see any on the map yet. Because when the creep trimmer comes out, Zerg versus Zerg gets interesting. Because these little skirmishes are pretty planned out, pretty menial, not much damage done here. Just some simple harass to make sure your opponent doesn't just free farm minerals the entire game. As both of these players' incomes is quite high, but Serral does have about 20 workers more at the 6-minute mark, making his income in minerals about 600 per minute more, and his gas about 300 to 400 more per minute. Oh, as we see Baneling cocoons coming out, roaches and Banelings. This attack could be huge, but both teams do have Banelings. The red Banelings trying to negate the blue Banelings by blowing up on each other. Banelings cancel out Banelings if they're far away from all the other units. And as these Banelings encroach in, the roaches just have to run back or face the consequences and die. We do see that Spinecrawler go down, as Team Blue marches in the base with 3 Ravagers with that Bile on deck. Team Red gets separated from the creep, and you know when Zerg units have to fight off creep against Zerg units on creep, it is quite a rough time. Zerglings just flooding in for Serral here. Serral cannot fight off this wave of Zerglings, Bile, roaches. He does start to come back, but he just says GG. 7-minute game. Serral just could not. He just could not relent. We thought he was losing that fight the entire time, but because he was on defense and he had his queens there, that's what made the difference. It wasn't the unit composition, because they both had the same Banelings, they both had the same Zerglings, they both had the same roaches, but what there was the queens on creep that made the difference. Very good game, and let's look at the next replay in the set. Let's actually do the whole best of 3 set right here. Actually, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the entire best of 3 set. So that is 1 point for Serral out of this best of 3. That game was quite short at 7 minutes. I know there's a way to do this. Hold on, give me a moment. I think it's shift 1? Yes, there we go. Serral does have 1 point on the board from a swift 7-minute Zerg v Zerg game. And Serral keeping the same color in the top left corner. Serral on red. TSG Solar in the bottom right on blue. So let's go over what happened in that game and see if Solar can avoid making the same mistakes. So first off, he made more Zerglings than workers. Well, he made more Zerglings than his opponent in favor of getting a stronger army, while Solar immediately went for more workers. Serral went for more workers, while Solar went for more Zerglings. And this did cost him, because while Serral did lose more troops in the initial fight, he was able to produce more troops overall and respawn effectively his defense, and that's what caused Solar to just GG out really fast. Excellent play. Excellent play. I can't believe that the game was only 7 minutes. These pro games either are really close and they come down to one early mid-game fight like that, or they're really not close and one player just goes in and stomps. But last game, I would say, was extremely close. And this game looks like it'll be close again, as their production tabs are mirrored from these Zerg players. As I don't really have much to talk about on comps, as the comps are literally mirrored, second for second. Let's talk about that last game a little bit more, and we can talk about these players. So we saw Serral wait for his opponent to overextend and go for a killing blow with his queens, his creep, his roaches. Didn't even have Ravagers. It didn't even need Ravagers. He just opted for more Lings to come in, more roaches to come in, and it was just enough. With his creep advantage, it was just enough. Both players playing the exact same game. You can see in the production tab. You can see in the unit tab. Except again, Serral does have 2 Lings right before Solar has 2 Lings. This is the same thing that happened last game. And with these 2 Lings, Serral will replicate last game, and he will go and attack the hatchery. And just for reference, 2 Lings cannot kill a hatching hatchery. But he can force a cancel, because once the hatchery is completed, if there's nothing there, it will go down, because it no longer will regenerate health. But same thing as last game, Solar gets his Lings out a little bit later, scares him off with the queen and some Lings. If he gets a kill here, that would be a little bit of progress. Oh, he splits his Lings up to only take 1 death, potentially. If he does lose anything, they get metabolic boost at the same exact time. These Zerglings able to run away from each other. But if he gets caught in a corner, he will go down. Only 9 health on the Zergling. And he just quick runs it straight back to base. Zergling does survive, as these two say, cross the map, it's not worth to keep chasing. As Solar does match every Overlord. Oh, but Solar does have 1 uncontested Overlord in this red base. As Serral does move another one into the blue base. We see the first creep tumor come out from Solar. This is what I was talking about. Once you get into creep versus creep interactions between the 2 Zergs, stuff really starts happening. Solar made a bit of a wall here with his 3 buildings and his queen. Very smart, so he doesn't really have to think about defending unless there's a lot of units. He just can sit here, have a nice, luxurious defense, unless there's actually some real threat, and then he has his Zerglings and his 1 Baneling over here. In the production tab, we see 13 roaches versus some research. We see a creep tumor coming out. We also see the hatchery mutating. Lots of workers from Solar, as he is about 20 workers ahead of Serral. His income should be substantially higher right now, as Solar has not 1, not 2, but 3 fully saturated bases, as he works on getting gas for his 3rd. Double gas for his 3rd, that is. We see an absolute military mash coming out from Serral right now, as he has 47 army supply, and he's making more with the Zerglings and the Banelings running across the map. He gets 1 queen down. These will not morph into Banelings, and he does cancel them. The Zerglings rushing in. Banelings trying to make contact with the Zerglings, but they don't get in. The Roachlings block it out very well. Conflict going on the right side, but Solar does shut it down. Serral loses the fight on the right side, but that's not what he cared about. All he cared about was winning that left battle, killing the 2 queens, killing the Banelings, and he secures another quick victory, 5:48 time on the clock. There's another replay in this batch, so I will go check it out. I think this was a best of 5 between Serral and Solar. There are many replays in these folders. Sorry, I've still been new to this, so if I spoiled anything, it did not mean to. Going into game 3 right here. Less than 13 minutes of game time between those two games. Less than 13 minutes of this Zerg versus Zerg. Ready? Check this out. Wait, no, it's Serral. Serral has 2 in this set right now. This is a best of 5 then. I thought it was best of 3, but because this was a playoff match, it was escalated to best of 5. Again, this is the Stay-at-Home Cup number 1, hosted, I think, on April 12th. And I chose some of these matches because they were extremely high-level matches between players who I recognize the name of from watching replays myself. So I figured these would be great games to cast. None of these games I've seen before. These are all my first looks, all my first opinions on these. And I'm just doing my best job to give you insightful, quick commentary and casting. I like to give you some insight. I like to give you some knowledge from this gigantic Starcraft Silver 1 solo brain I have, Platinum 3 duo brain I have. The brain is massive on this. I can't call myself a plat player. I'm a Silver 1 solo player. 2s don't count when I'm saying my rank. Anyways, but I am improving, and I do think casting is a good way for me to extend my brain deep into StarCraft and absorb knowledge from throwing myself into these pro game replays. Again, we do see the mirrored production, but in both of these games, let's talk about why Serral won this. Let's talk about everything Serral did different in the first 4 minutes to win those 2 games. First off, Overlord placement, both teams, the exact same. Exact same scouting patterns from both these Overlords, very simple. Just run over to your opponent's base, stay static over the expansion, watch for army movements. And then from Serral, what we've seen from both of these games so far has been 2 Lings coming out very quickly. Like you already see right here. Serral is producing these 2 Lings, and they will immediately run to the opponent's base. Let's watch these Lings run across the map, shall we? So these Lings are what I'm talking about. He does the same build order every game. Every single game. Both of these players have done the exact same build order so far. Serral gets the 2 Zerglings, runs out to Expansion 3, starts just gnawing away at it. Then immediately, Solar builds his 2 Zerglings, comes and stops them. But the difference here is Solar noticed this happening and goes for a slightly earlier production. It's not a reaction, it's a call out this time. The past 2 games, it has been a reaction. He says, oh no, my hatchery's under attack. I need to get something over there. But this game, he says, oh, Serral's attacked my 3rd expansion with 2 Zerglings. What if I make my 2 Zerglings a little bit earlier just so he gets no value out of it? Excellent play by Solar, adapting to his opponent. I'm not going to say incredible play, because that's just same thing 3 times, but very insightful, very adaptive. I like to see this coming out as both players, again, following the same exact build order, getting metabolic boost at the exact same time, so their Zerglings are of equal power and speed. The Zerglings trying to hide from these enemy Zerglings. Serral does have vision. As his 4 Zerglings converge on the 2, 6 on the 2, 2 back in the base, they can go for a quick surround as Serral's 2 Zerglings do engage on this base in the bottom left. The Queen will kill 1. 1 Zergling is still up, it's a chase scene for this 1 Zergling. He can't outmaneuver it. Both Zerglings do go down as Solar is still 1 army point ahead. And he is making more Zerglings. Serral is making Banelings. He's making Queens. He's making Zerglings. He's making workers. Serral manages to maintain this worker lead every game. He just mashes the worker button. And then when he thinks he's ahead, Solar hits it even harder. He's got 7 more drones coming in very quickly to increase his economy above Serral. See, very quickly, the worker counts will even up as both players absolutely fiend for that econ. All you can do in this early game Zerg v Zerg is spread creep and lie to your opponent about how much money you're making. You don't want them to know anything. So if you see an overlord, you put your queen on that. You want your opponent Zerg to have no vision. Again, same thing happens. Serral tries to send a little Zergling in to get some information. But the queen does make a pretty good barrier wall, as they have the same exact barrier wall and the same exact idea on how to acquire vision. Because these overlords going in are just not safe enough from these queens on creep. The queens on creep are pretty fast. Oh no, we see 3 research coming out from Serral, going for some aggressive carapace upgrades. This queen has 2 kills so far, only a few bit of energy. We do see the 1 creep tumor out from Serral. Do we see a matching one? We see 3 creep. Excuse me, guys. Hope I didn't miss anything in that 1 nanosecond when I sneeze. Solar sends Zerglings across the map to this expansion 4 by Serral. Serral chooses to ignore it with his Zerglings in order to get the Banelings and Roach on it. The expansion will fall. He does cancel it, so he only loses 75. But he does cancel it and immediately put it right back up. Some things do fall to the Banelings, to the Zerglings. Only 75 minerals, and that is not a lot. But the problem was the progress on the hatchery. See, he didn't care about the 75 minerals. He's making 2,800 a minute. He cares about the progress and getting the efficiency up to make more units. As we see Solar coming with a huge wave of Zerglings up to the north. Coming for that queen, slipping by the Roach. The Roach is not effective as a wall compared to the queen. The Zerglings in the main. They go for the queen. They take out the queen. The Zerglings are now taking out a spawning pool. No, that's the spawning pool. The Zerglings are now taking out drones. We see 6 Serral drones fall as he is 6 behind in workers immediately. And all of the Zerglings do run with their lives. They're not going to make it out of this. The 1 Baneling does clean them up. Again, that was a 6 worker kill, but Solar is already 10 ahead. As Serral is using some workers to make some things back in his base. And Solar is amassing a little bit of a Muta army down here. Muta army going to go in, going to get some cheeky drone kills before the queen can kill any of these Mutas. The Hydra survives on 1 HP. That could be bad if he doesn't kill that, and that gets regeneration on the creep. Because Hydras and queens are his only defense against this right now. He pulls the queen from the second. From the natural, the queen gets pulled, and it does go down. The Mutalisks are fighting for their lives as Solar does go in to the northmost expansion and starts eliminating all of these probes. Probes at base 4 and base 3 were eliminated swiftly. That was 6 worker kills. Solar is now 18 workers ahead of Serral. That was a devastating blow to the economy. If Solar can keep the pressure. If he can't, then that literally meant nothing. As Zerg v Zerg income is always through the absolute roof. But we see him keeping this 20 worker lead as he does supply cap Serral, because he's seeking out his overlords across the map. This was a smarter play than keeping the aggression on. He sought out all the overlords he could see that were matching his, and now Serral cannot make a single unit until he produces overlords. Serral is stuck. He's making 8 overlords. We see him in the production tab, mashing out overlords. This set has been an incredible set so far, as Serral is quite behind, I would say. 20 workers. He's just a few behind in army. But he is playing defense, so he does have a bit of an advantage, because defense is easier on Zerg than offense, with the queens, with the creep. Sometimes with Hydras on the creep, sometimes with sneaky Banelings, sometimes with Spore Crawlers for these mutas. He's going to have to keep up a sufficient amount of Spore Crawlers. He has the burrowed lurkers. Does Serral know about the lurkers? He is over 1,000 tech ahead of Solar right now. And while that might not seem significant, he finishes yet another tech. Solar does, closing the gap just that little bit more. We see Solar staying on the aggressive. He has 3 main armies right here. He has the Banelings, he has the Banelings, and then he has Mutas. So he's got a sneaky patch of Banelings up north, looking to run in, blast some drones, and not make it out alive. Those are just trading. Econ for some Banelings, and that is a favorable trade as Solar is up by 20 workers still. He maintains this lead. The Muta's having to fall back between the Spore Crawlers, looking for a quick queen pick if they can get it. Yes, they They do try to go on the queen, but the spore crawlers are just too much, as there's a sufficient amount of hydras in Serral's base right now. They are stuck between queens, spore crawlers, and hydras right now, as these mutas are just getting picked off again and again. We see Solar supply capped, almost, at 200, as he does make 20 Zerglings in the main. These will come out relatively quickly and group up with the main army of Zerglings. And did his banelings go in? He has 9 banelings. We see the unit count right now, 20 mutas, 100 Zerglings. Right as I say that, they start to go down. We have incredible losses from both teams right here, about 5k each in losses. We see Serral coming out with another Groove Spines research. In the production tab, we see just research after research. Serral is pushing this tech lead as far as he can on defense, just scrapping to stay in this game. He's a little bit far behind, but he has the tech. He's scrapping right now. He's trying everything he can to stay right here. While he has the lurkers, he has the spore crawlers. Most of the banelings will get in and kill workers, but the micro impeccable. The spore crawler does tank so many banelings. It does barely survive on 8 HP. That won't survive much more. Serral is getting as many hydras as he possibly can right now. His mineral lines are depleting a little bit. He's losing mineral in his base, as Solar does have a full extra mining base than he does. The muta's coming in through the bottom. The queens healing each other. The spawning pool taking a little bit of damage. The spore crawlers are absolutely magnificent here. That one muta is very low. The spore crawlers trying to pick it off, doing their absolute best. There's spore crawlers at every single one of these bases. Mutas will have a hard time finding a purchase anywhere on the map. Whew. This has been quite the game so far, as we see the massive amount of Zerglings chasing that roach. The Zerglings and mutas are right next to each other. We see Corruptors coming out, morphing into Broodlords. And these Broodlords could be what finishes or breaks the game. These Broodlords could be absolutely massive if they don't go down to Spore Crawlers and Queens. But you have to take into account the main troop that he has been building are these Vipers. He's been building Hydras. He's been building Vipers. Let's look at the unit tab real quick. He has 20 Hydras. He has Roaches. He has many, many, many Lurkers. He has a few Vipers. And of course, he has the Spore Crawlers all over the map. He is just staying, keeping this tech advantage as the Banelings go in to kill the Spore Crawlers. And the Broodlord troops do go in to try to get rid of some of these Hydras. These Broodlords are just so effective at just throwing garbage after garbage in at the grounds. That initial damage does so well. But the Vipers pulling in 2 Broodlords, getting 2 picks on the Broodlords very quickly. But 3 Broodlords still are up. That one will not escape. 3 Broodlords are in the back line. Another one gets picked off and dragged into the main. This was devastating losses for Solar, as his army is still barely ahead. These Hydras are taking a lot of damage. These Broodlords are throwing in a lot of garbage. The Mutas are getting a lot of worker kills, as he is 30 workers ahead right now of Serral. The Vipers fiending. They get the last 2 Broodlords. Actually, there is one more Broodlord in the back. That is on 1 HP. It should not escape here if the Hydras can hit it. Okay, one more Broodlord in the back for Solar. His army is falling. His army is going down. These Zerglings are getting quite the scout. Lurkers do kill them as soon as they transform back. Vipers are absorbing these evolution chambers to get that quick, easy energy. Absolutely slurping on their own buildings. Again, with the 2k tech advantage, the 30 worker deficit, how can Serral bring this game back? Even his army's a little bit behind, as some Banelings do go down into the topmost base of Serral. Serral looking to make a bit of a move here. There's a huge amount of Banelings and Zerglings down here. Serral doesn't want to be on the defensive right here, as his last Broodlord does get pulled in. 11 drones go down, traded for a Broodlord. That was not worth it at all. Broodlords take so much time, energy, and minerals to make and be effective. We see these mutas coming in, just running in, running out, running in, running out. Solar's been at maximum supply for so long, but he's lost 6k more than Serral has so far. We see Ultralisks. These Ultralisks are absolutely massive, and while they do big damage, while they take big damage, they do have trouble getting into bases sometimes if there's a lot of units, if there's some buildings. They do have trouble actually fitting into the base, as these lurkers are putting up huge work, getting out the vision, getting out the banelings, doing everything they can as we see the armies retreat a little bit out of vision as the Vipers are fiending for a quick snipe. Vipers want to pull something right now. The Ultralists do all go down except for 2. Another Ultralist comes back from the backline. Solar only lost about 7 troops there, but quickly replaces it with more Ultralists coming in. He's producing 3 more in the base. Banelings coming in for the Hydras. Banelings getting destroyed by the Lurkers. That was a huge win for Serral right there. All of those Banelings absolutely wasted by those Lurkers. Serral trying to get rid of some of the vision, trying to get rid of creep, get rid of burrowed units. And like I said in the Zerg v Zerg, this map control is super hard to get and maintain because while he has been spreading creep tumors, both Zergs know how powerful creep is. So they run around with vision and they try to clear it whenever they see any single bit of creep expanding. And we see in the bottom left face, 3 roaches are going to go in for this 30 saturated worker base. Again, this 30 worker base will be pretty huge if he gets any kills here. 2 workers do go down already. Solar literally has double the workers of Serral. His econ is in shambles. He has so many workers, but he's just oversaturating one base. The Ultras, the Vipers duking it out. The Empowered Overseers running around. Only 1.6k ahead of tech right now. Serral is killing everything. That's game, set, match. As Serral closes out the final battle, killing all of the Ultralists. The army supply ended 40 short. We thought this Solar had this game in the bag with the double worker lead. Amazing set played by Serral here. Good games by Solar. Incredible set. Thank you for watching, and tune in next time.